All right. Shockingly, but not all nutritional information is reliable. Right? Ultimately, this comes down to you. Okay? And I also teach one of the online campuses versions of nutrition, and there's a worthless blog that's on there that kind of talks about who people go to for information. And for the most part, everyone says, oh, well, I go to cdc.gov or nih.gov or whatever. And they lying. Okay. They're answering the question like they're supposed to, which is fantastic. But who do you guys go to for nutritional information? Generally, you just look on, you follow a couple, authors who are imbeciles. You follow some vloggers who may have credentials, but they may not use sound science. Okay, and that in that case, because I get a lot of questions about certain individuals, and for the most part, they have a couple good things, but then they take a couple points and then they run with it, and that's where I'm lost. Okay? And we could talk about that later if you want, if you have questions about some of those idiots out there. But ultimately, this is you. You need to question. You need to research. You need to understand. Knowing some websites, I think I have a list of a handful of websites, and I have a bunch of links throughout all of these lecture notes to various ones of these. Those are going to be the more reliable ones. FDA, CDC, NIH. There's some really far out ones out there within the government that you don't really think about going to. And they're really some of the best ones that you are out there. The FDA can regulate, so they're going to look at claims that are on products, and we'll be talking about that. I think that's in chapter 3. Yeah, chapter 3 there, where we start looking at labels and whatnot, and what can be put on a label and what can't be put on a label here. They can't prevent the spread of misinformation, right? That would take a lot of individuals to try to do. So they can't prevent the spread of the orange diet, where you only eat oranges. You have to be smart enough to question that and be like, okay, they're only saying to eat oranges for every single meal. What the hell? That can't be right, and it's not right. Don't do that, please. What should you do? Ask questions. We'll break all these down here in a second. Look for red flags. What are those? We'll point some of those out. Use the internet wisely. I know that's the hardest part here. Use the internet wisely and read more reliable research. Easy now when you have access to reliable literature, scientific research articles through the school and whatnot. A little bit difficult when you get out, but hopefully kind of point you in some directions here. And there's free sites out there all over the place, and I could try to point you in some of those directions there. All right, so what kind of questions should you ask? Who is the author? What motivates the author? When it comes to like a lot of these authors, and I'll just throw this dude out here just because I think he's a jerk, but no, please don't say that. He's a wonderful individual. He's just not very nice. The obesity code, dude. I don't like him. Because he takes liberty with words and manipulates them a little bit and doesn't use them in the correct sense, but says it in a very convincing manner. And people buy it. He shamed individuals. He shamed some fat researchers for being overweight. And when they stood up to him, someone questioned some of his research. They tried to get him fired. I'm not going to say it because I have the recorder on, so I won't say it. But what motivates this author? Money? Selling a book? Selling a book? Take it with a grain of salt. Who is the source? Okay. What is the source? Is it coming from a .com? Is it coming from a .gov? .gov, .edu, .org. Those are going to be the sources that are usually 9 times out of 10 more reliable, okay, because they have scientific research on them. .coms generally don't, unless you truly know who's behind that website, who the authors are for the website. Do they do research? Do they have a degree in nutrition research? And a lot of them don't. Red flags, and I have some just kind of bold-faced here. Those aren't necessarily ones that I would necessarily ask, but I mean, know a couple of them. If I was to ask you, what would you be looking for as a red flag as to something that is not the most reliable? Maybe give me a couple of these and make a good short answer question. Anything that's quick and easy. If it was quick and easy, man, everybody be doing it. Is anything quick and easy in life? No. Okay. I wish it was quick and easy. Some of you probably wish it was quick and easy, but nothing is ever quick and easy. Okay. Claim that sounds too good to be true. Those are classic red flags, those two right there. Scare tactics. Scare tactic is done quite a bit of times, but you see a lot more of scare tactics now with social media and whatnot, or with advertisements, where they can either attack a conventional scientist that's spouting the correct information, or a nutrition expert. So you see a lot of that. Anecdotal information, we said it at the very beginning. This is just, there's a lot of that when it comes to pimping of a product. And anecdotal, okay, that's great, all right, but that doesn't mean it's going to do a damn thing for you. Promotes benefits while overlooking risk. You see a lot of that in specific types of diets that only focus on eating one type of food or removing an entire nutrient altogether. You got to look at all the risk when you do some of these things. Vague discussion, meaningless, just scientific sounding terms, and this is a real common one now, where they use a couple words. And as we start to get into the weeds of this class, we'll start looking at some of these scientific terms and what they truly mean. And so when you start to hear these things, you'd be like, dude, you're using that all wrong. I had this guy one time, he was a real butthole, and he was really hard, and he made us do a lot of stuff in this summer class. But I remember those words, and you're using them wrong. So trust me, okay? It'll come to bear fruit. Pseudoscience and disclaimers up the wazoo, okay? What's a disclaimer? There you go. Results not typical. And you see that all the time on products, okay? You see that all the time on products. Here are some right here. These are going to be the more reliable ones right here. I have a lot of links to NIH, National Institutes of Health. National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the FDA. Oh my gosh, you can go down the rabbit hole of rabbit holes with those websites. They have a ton of information, a ton of links, referenced out the wazoo with those right there. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is good. There's some paywalls, to be a part of the, you have to be a dietitian with some of these. You have to be a medical doctor with some of these to get to a lot of the nuts and bolts. But the ones, the .orgs there, the CDC, the FDA, the NIH. The NIH is a really good one. There's a lot of information there. Peer-reviewed journals. What should you look at? Peer-reviewed journals. We talked about that in the beginning. This, when someone says PubMed, this is what we're talking about. Okay, PubMed is the National Library of Medicine and National Institutes of Health. All right, and it's a huge repository of a buttload of scientific research articles. There's a link right there that you can get to that website. I also have the same link in your syllabus as well. All you do is go to the library. I don't know what that pops up. Go to the library's website, and at the top, of MCC's website, click library, and then click databases. And then you can tool around for your heart's content. It's really fantastic and cool. In the fall, when we go back, there are a few nutrition articles, magazines over there within the library. I don't know how much longer we're going to have access to some of those, but there's a lot of good information out there, especially through that PubMed. And again, I have a vast number of links to some research articles kind of scattered throughout the chapters. Who's reliable? Dietitians, medical doctors, osteopathic, chiropractic, naturopathic, I guess you could put on this list. They're probably more geared towards, herbs and whatnot. Medical doctor, doctor of osteopathic medicine. Medical doctors probably of all of these probably get the least amount of nutrition in some of their research or in their education. Obviously, a dietitian is going to, a registered dietitian is going to be the individual that has hopefully more in their curriculum. Osteopath, chiropractor, they usually have a lot of nutrition involved with their schooling and education. These individuals, why would you want to go to these individuals? I mean, they help evaluate your status as a patient, which is good. Blood pressure, urinalysis, all that fun stuff. Although all those anthropometric measurements that you do when you go into the medical doctor. Okay. They can look at your diet and see if you have any deficiencies or if there's any needs that are pressing. Your your hair is thinning, your skin's dry and cracked, you have burning sensation in your feet, what are some needs? What are some things that you're experiencing? Is diet a part of it? And then make a plan. Okay. And then make a plan. That's what these reliable experts can help you do. And hopefully parse out whether or not that thing you read on the internet the other night at 10 o'clock in your bed is cool or not cool. All right, I have a little video here. It's just a couple minutes here. It's kind of cool. It looks at evaluating sources for credibility here. I can't remember who this is. This is through the University of Kansas. Okay, it's through their, I believe it's through their library tutorials. So let me hit play.
Students often receive research assignments requiring the use of credible sources. But what does it mean for a source to be credible? Why is it important to use these sources? And how can you tell if a source is credible? When we describe a source as credible, we're basically saying that the information is high quality and trustworthy, essentially that we can believe what the source is telling us. When you use high-quality sources to back up your points, you demonstrate your own credibility as a writer, thereby contributing to the overall effectiveness of your argument. The best quality research builds on other high-quality research. This is true of both your own work and the work of professional researchers. There are several factors that contribute to a source's credibility. Among them are the author's level of expertise, her point of view, and the source's publication date. The author's level of expertise on the topic he or she is writing about could take the form of an advanced degree or other extensive experience in the field. A credible source often provides information about the author's credentials. Sometimes, however, the author's credentials may not be listed, and the publication itself can be the marker of quality. This is often true for some non-scholarly publications like well-respected newspapers and magazines, where the article's content is critically examined as part of the publication process. Another important component of a source's credibility is its point of view, in particular, its potential bias. Bias is an inaccurate or unfair presentation of information. In some cases, bias is intentional. A group with its own agenda may sponsor research or information, and the sponsorship may influence the results. Bias can also be unintentional. A writer's perspective may prevent him or her from being able to see all sides of an issue. Sometimes you need unbiased facts to support your point, but other times you might want people's opinions, and that's okay, as long as you acknowledge the source's perspective in your own work. While bias can be difficult to detect, be aware that it can exist in any kind of source, including things you find through the library. In the academic publishing world, books and articles go through a rigorous editorial process in which an editor or group of scholars evaluate the work's quality. When it comes to journal articles, this process is called peer review. Peer review articles are considered high quality because the review process helps to filter out sources that are written by unqualified or biased authors. Finally, with any source, consider when it was published or last updated. Even something that was once high quality can now be out of date and unsuitable for some purposes. If I needed current statistics on the average cost of college in the United States, a source published in the 1990s would be out of date. However, if I was looking at the increase in college tuition over the last few decades, a source from the 1990s might fit my purposes. Of course, not every credible source is appropriate for your research. Be sure to evaluate not only a source's trustworthiness, but also its appropriateness for your argument.
If you have any further questions, click the Ask a Librarian.
Ask a librarian.